On Election Day 2 weeks ago, the Republicans received 5 million more votes than Democrats and won back control of the House of Representatives. Their victory, though, was less than overwhelming, and many people are blaming Trump. When I first heard this accusation after the elections, I was a bit surprised. Trump? Trump was barely visible during election season, and 90% of the people he backed actually won. And that includes people like Ron DeSantis in Florida and J.D. Vance in Ohio, both of whom are very much associated with Trump in the public's eye. But let's leave that aside for the moment. The argument against Trump is supposed to be something like this. Trump motivates Democrats to vote who otherwise would not vote. Without Trump around, many Democrats would just stay home and not vote, and Republicans would win by default. But do you realize how self-incriminating this logic is? Anyone who uses this logic is essentially admitting that Republicans don't have the numbers to win when Democrats are motivated to vote. Well, why is that? How is it that we don't have the numbers when we represent normalcy, and the left supports the sexual mutilation of minors, the defunding of police forces, and so many other policies that basically amount to the disintegration of civilization? Is half the country insane? I don't think so. Here's another explanation for Republican losses 2 Tuesdays ago that I think is far more plausible, but unfortunately it also leads to the same troubling conclusion about our lack of numbers, and that explanation is mail-in ballots. Usually, if side A loves its candidate and side B feels unenthusiastic about its candidate, side A wins because its voters all show up to vote, while some of side B's voters stay home. But that kind of logic only makes sense if you have to actually leave your home to vote. What if you don't have to leave your home to vote, though? What if you could just stay home and wait for someone to drop by your front door to pick up your ballot? Well, then the enthusiasm factor goes out the window. I'm not sure if Biden won in 2020, but if he did, it was only because of mail-in ballots. Enthusiasm for Trump in 2020, if you recall, was through the roof. He had rallies to which 50,000 people showed up. Biden, meanwhile, could hardly attract 100 people to his rallies. There were record-breaking boat parades for Trump in Florida and massive car rallies for him in New York. Everyone was so excited to vote for him, and somehow he lost, officially anyways. Shortly before the election, a traveling vendor, said he was certain Trump would win. How did he know? Every election, he said, he sells cookies with the names of the candidates on them, and he sees which sells more. This election season, he said, the Trump cookies were selling like hotcakes. No one, though, was interested in buying his Biden cookies. So how did Biden win if he in fact won? Simple. It didn't matter if no one particularly was excited by him, because motivation to vote no longer mattered. You may not be interested in voting, but if someone knocks on your front door and asks you to please just fill out your name and sign a ballot, you will. It just takes 10 seconds. Before 2020, the key states only made mail-in ballots available for people who were quite ill or had some other very good reason for not voting in person. Now, though, they just make them available to everyone. In fact, they just mail them out to you unsolicited. Who wins under this new system? Democrats. Why? Because the average uninformed voter leans left. And why is that? Because he's educated in left-wing schools, lives in a left-wing culture, and gets his news from a left-wing media. If you only watch CNN, if you only read the New York Times, or if you only just turn on the radio for 2 minutes in the car to get the news, you believe that Democrat politicians are basically moderates who champion the average man, while Republicans are extremists and the party of the rich. This depiction, as we all know, is laughable, but that's what the average uninformed voter believes. He has no idea whatsoever that Democrats support allowing men into women's locker rooms if they think of themselves as women. He has no idea that Democrats support drag queen shows, and sexually mutilating children. He has no idea that Democrats support criminals over the police, no cash bail, etc., etc. He has no idea. And so these people vote left, thinking that they are voting for the moderate. This second explanation for the Republicans' underwhelming performance 2 Tuesdays ago has much merit to it, but we've arrived once again at the same sorry conclusion. We don't have the numbers to win when everyone votes. And when you don't have the numbers to win, there's only one conclusion you could arrive at. You need to change the educational system and media apparatus such that the average uninformed voter does not, by default, get a distorted view of reality and therefore lean left. Right now, in a country that is roughly half red and half blue, we have one or two conservative colleges. We have Hillsdale College, we have Liberty University, and that's about it. That is insane. There should be 50 such colleges, not one or two. St. Ignatius of Loyola said, "Give me the child for the first 7 years, and I will give you the man." In the book Animal Farm by George Orwell, a group of animals rebel against their human masters and start running the farm themselves. The pigs, who are the smartest among the animals, take charge, and the names of their leaders are Snowball and Napoleon. These two pigs, though, constantly argue at every assembly of the animals. One day, one of the dogs on the farm gives birth to a litter of puppies, and Napoleon offers to educate them. Over the next few years, Napoleon continues to argue with Snowball at the various assemblies of the animals, but much less vigorously. And one day, we discover why. At an assembly at the farm, Napoleon suddenly makes a strange sound, and several fierce-looking dogs emerge from nowhere and chase Snowball from the farm. Yes, those were the little puppies that Napoleon had taken under his wings. They are now adults, and they help Napoleon secure total control of the farm. The lesson is obvious. If you control the educational system, you control the future generation. It is an outright miracle that half the country still votes Republican despite decades of leftist control of education. But that miracle can easily run dry soon, and in general, we're not allowed to rely on God performing open miracles on our behalf. Even when Republicans win nowadays, they generally do so by the tiniest of margins. And now with mail-in ballots, Republicans are in even deeper trouble. If the left continues to have essentially a monopoly on shaping and molding minds, we are toast. So yes, it's always important for us to win on election day. But long term, we won't be able to win unless we start taking over the culture or creating an alternative parallel one. If we want to win races 10 years from now, we need to focus on the education of youngsters today. That includes focusing on the books they read, the movies they watch, and the schools they attend. And if we don't like the available options out there, we must create our own. The future of our country depends on it.